I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue.
Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, powered by Jack's Angels, where we talk about your experiences, advocacy news, research, and today's heroes for kids. We are here to bring hope to the unthinkable but real experience of a child diagnosed with cancer. Jack's Angels' advocacy mission is to provide a voice for children with cancer to effect change for a more hopeful future for those to come. Childhood Cancer Talk Radio starts right now. Here is your host, Janet Demeter.
Welcome to our show today. I'm Janet Demeter, your host for Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, powered by Jack's Angels Foundation for Pediatric Brain Tumor Awareness and Research on the web at jacksangels.org. I'm very pleased to say that we have a fantastic show lined up for you today. It's Brain Tumor Awareness Month, and our focus throughout May are the exciting new frontiers of research we're exploring thanks to organizations such as the National Brain Tumor Society and featured today, ABC Squared. ABC Squared's founder, Dan Case, worked in the financial sector, and before his brain cancer diagnosis, Case had already revolutionized Silicon Valley by taking smart risks with keen discernment and honesty. But Dan faced firsthand the dire state of brain cancer research. Because brain cancer is not as prevalent as other types, few biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies have been willing to invest in research and develop it. And despite the urgency of need for a cure for brain cancer, it remains one of the least funded areas of cancer research. So when faced with a terminal diagnosis, along with his wife Stacy, his brother Steve, and Steve's wife Jean, he founded ABC Squared, Accelerate Brain Cancer Cure, to bring a venture capitalist approach to brain cancer research and treatment, which I think is fabulous. So, Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, if you have not listened to our show before, it's dedicated to providing a forum of support and discussion for those affected by childhood cancer, of research information, advocacy news, and a sense of community for all of us who are in some way involved in the struggle for our children to be prioritized in our medical research system. For those not directly affected, we provide education, awareness, and an understanding that the difficulties for families of children with cancer reflect deeper problems in our society that affect all of us, whether or not we are fully aware. And most importantly, we strive to speak out for our most vulnerable citizens, our children with cancer and those with the deadliest diseases, the inadequacies of research funding for these people, and the unacceptable realities that this creates for them and their families right now. So due to the relative neglect of brain cancer research in our system, and also the fact that brain tumors are the number one killer of children diagnosed with cancer, we're keenly interested and supportive of the proponents of this research and helping lend them a stronger voice. We are so fortunate today to have with us Max Wallace, President and CEO of ABC Squared since 2008. Its headquarters is located in Washington, D.C. With his entrepreneurial biotechnology business background, Max is uniquely qualified to lead Accelerate Brain Cancer Cure and its venture philanthropy approach to finding a cure for brain cancer. Prior to ABC Squared, Max served as CEO of Theralogics, an anti-cancer biopharmaceutical company based on technology developed at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Prior to this, he helped found and develop a number of other highly visible biotech companies. Max also served as president of the Arbor Group, a consulting firm providing strategic advice to innovative-driven universities, companies, and communities, and was a member of the board of directors of the Emerging Companies section of the Biotechnology Industry Association, and has worked extensively on issues of public policy related to the development and commercialization of innovative technologies. Max remains a steward, a sense of integrity, hope, and creativity in all of ABC Squared's activities and investments. And he insists on the awareness that the challenges to finding a cure aren't all about money, but that integrity, insight, and believing in hope, and our intelligence and capacity to work together are just as important, if not more so, than money. I'm Janet Demeter, your host for Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com, and it's my honor and pleasure to welcome Max Wallace to our show. Max, thank you so much for joining us today.
Janet, I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you for asking me on.
Oh, absolutely. And just for our listeners, I bumped into Max at the Race for Hope in Washington, D.C., just less than 2 weeks ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to have him on the show. And I'm so glad you are.
Well, you were walking around in costume showing your area of interest, and it brought us together and led us to talk, so I'm glad it did.
So tell us a little bit more about ABC Squared and how it came to life for you.
Well, as you mentioned in your lovely introduction, we were born when a family was stricken with a terrible cancer, which is so often what happens. You know, families get together and try and contribute then to making the ecosystem grow, and that's what our group did. This group happened to be trained in entrepreneurism and entrepreneurial finance and felt that building a team that could attack the problem in a way that they had seen done in Silicon Valley and in high-end venture and entrepreneurism could allow some new things to happen, some different things to happen. So they put together, and I have inherited, a team that really looks at the landscape much as I would say a special forces team does. That we see where there are needs, we have certain skills, we have some money, we have excellent connections. In that special forces analogy, we have good radios, and we go in and help people do new and different things to try and make an impact in cancer.
It's fantastic. It's like when I learned about this organization, it was like, oh my gosh, funding creativity, having creativity in the way that you go about getting the funds. I mean, I love the excitement of it and the fun of it. It sounds like it's fun to a certain extent to try to solve these problems that you're solving.
It is fun. I'm very fortunate to have landed at this place at this time in my life. It captures a lot of what I had done in entrepreneurial biotech, in investment, in other things, but also I'm married to an artist, and we met in photography school, and it brings that certain artist side to the table, too. How do you make a really good thing come to life? It's a creative enterprise.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, some of the greatest scientists were also musicians or artists, so it makes perfect sense. So you said that the organization is about how old? When did it first come together? Tell us a little bit about Dan and his story, if you could.
Dan was this charismatic guy who led an investment bank in San Francisco called Hambrecht & Quist, and it was one of the cornerstones in the building of Silicon Valley. It provided the financing for companies like Apple or Genentech, and in a new space like that, you have to be a creative business person, and Dan was considered the best of the best. The word they put in his obituary in the New York Times was that he could see around corners, and I think that was really true. Plus, he was a really great guy. People loved working for him, working with him. So when he was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, a lot of people who had conventional thinking at the time said that basically he should step away from his company, shrink his life, spend his time with his wife and kids, and just use the time that he had left. And Dan's reaction was not just no, but probably hell no. And said, I'm going to attack. You know, that's what our family does. His brother, Steve Case, was having a good run of success at that time. Steve had helped found and build AOL, and the two of them had this kind of genetic underpinning to approach things as aggressive entrepreneurs. And one of the first things they did was to talk to Genentech, one of the companies that Dan had taken public. Genentech's original CEO, a guy named Bob Swanson, had died a couple years earlier of a glioblastoma brain tumor.
Wow,
and
I didn't know that.
There was a drug that they were developing that Dan thought could be useful for brain cancer, and Genentech wasn't really interested. Brain cancer was a small market, a difficult disease, and they were using it in colorectal cancer and thought, boy, if anything bad happened in a trial for brain cancer, that could affect our entire commercial plan for this. And Dan kept at them and convinced them that it should be tried in brain cancer and said, if it's business risk that worries you, we'll provide the funding for that. And that was how ABC2 was launched. We provided the late preclinical and early clinical funding that brought Avastin forward as a brain cancer drug. And it was the first new brain cancer drug in a decade. I actually was fortunate enough when I joined ABC Squared to testify in front of the ODAC, the FDA committee that reviewed this, for the approval of Avastin, and it was approved. And so that was the early start of ABC Squared.
So wow, you guys were right there instrumental in bringing Avastin to the world, because I've only heard the most good things about this drug insofar as it being like one of the only things that'll help several different kinds of cancer as well.
Well, we'd always like better drugs, but you've got to get there incrementally, and by bringing new drugs to patients, you learn so much. You help the patients, but you also inform the whole effort, and I see Avastin as having played that role.
Well, and then you learn also, whether it's a success or failure, you learn more about the drug, how it works, and how those different organs that you're trying to treat work and the different cancers do. So it's, it's a good thing that they invested in it, even if it hadn't gone as well as it should have. Gosh, I only learned something in the end.
Well, and it set the stage for what ABC Squared looked to do, which was not to fund large-scale basic research. We had seen that as kind of what the National Cancer Institute would do, or maybe bigger foundations. Our job was to find a place where we could be helpful in moving the coolest, maybe the edgiest ideas forward and getting them into the clinic where they could be tested with patients who had these difficult tumors and essentially advance the frontiers of what was being used to treat patients. And so Avastin was the first.
Well, let's talk more about that when we come back. We have to take a short break. I love what I'm hearing. This is Janet Demeter. I'm your host on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media-driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com. Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life. And the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know, but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
Welcome back to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where every child is a life, not a number. I'm here with Max Wallace, CEO of biotech venture company ABC Squared, a venture philanthropic company dedicated to funding creativity and collaboration for research that gets results as quickly as possible and to drastically shift the attitudes and approaches to brain cancer research. ABC Squared breaks through the boundaries of academia, nonprofits, industries, and other research fields to find the cure. To reach new treatments faster, ABC Squared helps partners connect, learning from failures and sharing successes. As venture philanthropists, they buy down the risk, quote unquote, for researchers to connect with the companies that can develop new patient treatments. They have to push more research through that drug development, quote unquote, valley of death. Literally, 90% of discoveries are not developed into treatments. Before we can start learning from results, from successes and failures, it can take 10 to 15 years to develop some therapies, and the average amount of time brain cancer patients have to live is 18 months. So time is of the essence. So by challenging these long-held attitudes about brain cancer research, ABC Squared is charting a more direct course toward the cure. So please visit abc2.org. That's abc2.org. We call it ABC Squared on the web to learn more. So I'm here with Max Wallace, CEO. And Max, before the break, you were talking about how this idea of doing things differently from the big guys like NCI and all the big names we know, and really taking a risk on some of the more creative and probably not so recognized solutions.
Well, I'm a great admirer of the work done by NCI and a number of the big foundations, but they have a fiduciary responsibility in their own mind to be fair, to be broad-based, and to make the best possible decision. And what it leads is to big review panels and a fair amount of time, and maybe the unintended consequence is you often fund things that are a little bit conventional, that are the next step. We're trying to hit home runs. This is the venture capital model. And that we don't want to be involved in doing the same thing just slightly differently again and again. We like to see orthogonal approaches to finding treatments and cures, and we hunt for that. And because we have a board of directors that came out of a venture landscape, they don't mind our taking that risk. They see our duty, frankly, as taking more risk rather than less. There needs to be somebody in the system that does that. So we have built our whole process around the model that has been in place for venture capital funding of edgy commercial ventures. Here, we do it in a nonprofit way. We say, our grant application is one page. Write us in simple English, strunk and white elements of style English, how you're going to change the world with your idea. How will this do that? I don't want to see 50 pages of cut and paste background material. Tell me, by looking me right in the eye, how you're going to change the world. And if we like it, we'll start engaging in a conversation that then iterates its way to a good project that we can fund and help with. We don't have a big set of review committees. We don't have a big scientific advisory board. We've got 4 scientific advisors with different skill sets that have all been in the private sector as well as the academic research sector. And we meet like a venture fund does. This has come in. Are we interested in doing this? Is this something we can help with? Do we have the money to do this? And we make decisions in a quick way to drive really creative research forward. That's the goal.
Well, that's amazing. I just want to stress to our listeners how important this approach is, okay? Especially, here we are in Brain Tumor Awareness Month, and I always carry the banner of DIPG because for kids, it's the death row. It just is. And as I mentioned before, most adults with brain tumors, it's usually like 18 months that they have. These people don't have time. We need brilliant people taking risks and going for it and really trying to open the box and see how this box connects to that box over there and bring all of the information together and collaborate. So I can't thank you enough for what you do. I'm sure you get plenty of benefit from what you do from a number of different areas in your life. But I'm just telling you from the folks that I deal with, and I relate to on a daily basis, we love you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
This is the best job I've ever had. I'll definitely say that.
So you do more than just supply money, right? Tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that.
To make an impact here, it really takes a team. It's not an individual sport. It's a team sport. There are so many things that you need to know and think about. And we've assembled a good team at ABC Squared. We have 6 full-time people, 4 scientific advisors, and a whole host of smart friends that we can call on when we need to. In the best tradition of modern business approaches, we're highly networked. But our goal is to find investigators who have that rare combination of real intelligence, real determination, real creativity, and real humility, that they are willing to work as part of a team. They don't want to build silos. They aren't just after the next big publication. What they want to do is add days to the lives of people dealing with brain cancer, and we want to be on that same page. So there's a good example. You had Charles Keller on talking about his work in his new institute, his Therapy Development Institute. But I first met Charles when he was at Oregon Health Sciences University and taking the bold step in DIPG of really trying to build the first set of tissue cultures from tumor samples of DIPG kids. Very difficult thing to do. And then he wanted to test all the known drugs against those tumor samples to see what might work. How could we begin to really develop DIPG-specific drugs? Well, in the course of our conversation, we had a lot of expertise in looking at genomics and functional genomics in drug screening, and it led us to a series of in-depth discussions. And what we wound up funding in Charles's first DIPG effort was the ability to basically bring genomics to bear to this screening effort. And it not only helped inform which drug types might work best, but it also began to let them choose drugs to try in these children's cancers. So it's one of those things where if we're going to get into a project, we expect to be a teammate, an interactive teammate, and use all our resources. Money's helpful. I mean, you can't do this without money. And we recognize that that's a component part of this, but the surprising thing to me has been that it's not just money. That it's, if you're smart and you have enough money to get something done, you can move to the next value milestone, to the next value stage in the development of a drug, where new money can appear because you've taken the risk out of the future decision. People say, hey, that's starting to work. That makes sense. Somebody took the real risk, and now I'm easier to convince. Let me give you money. And that could be the federal government through the NCI, but it could also be companies through joint ventures or other things. So when we talk about de-risking deals, this is part of what we're talking about.
It's fantastic. All right, you're going to have to start a university on this. You do know that, don't you? It needs to be taught.
I lived a fair amount of my life in a university, so I'm kind of enjoying the freedom of being slightly outside the walls.
Of course. No, you can just design it and other people will build it. But anyway, it's just a thought because it should be shared. I want there to be more people doing this and putting it together, perhaps with this as a model, because it seems to be working well. Looking at your statistics, you've been able to give like $20 million or something in the last, I don't know how many years. I mean, it's substantial what you've been able to fund. And this is absolutely what we need. Just with this kind of funding, and also the parent organizations that have gotten together, and I'm using DIPG as an example because the need for it is so urgent. These foundations get together and pool their money. And already, I think last year when I visited Dr. Manji's lab at Stanford, she sent me like 6 papers that came out in other areas of oncology that came from her one study that was being funded by parents. And so it was a testament to how prolific this research is if we just give it a chance.
And I think if we can take some of the leadership role early on in funding some of this work, it makes it easier for others to follow. I think because of our biotech background, our venture background, we're pretty tolerant of the risk portion of this, and we seek it out. Not every foundation is. It's interesting, we funded very early on a researcher at Duke, a guy named Dwayne Mitchell, who did a lot of the early vaccine work. And we were very early in vaccines and immune therapy. We were early into the Duke polio virus approaches that we all saw in 60 Minutes. And so we've stayed friends with Dwayne, and he's developed a much more advanced set of vaccines now. He's at the University of Florida with a whole vaccine center, and we have stayed friends and stayed interested. And he is now moving into childhood cancers. We helped bring together 2 other foundations to fund a clinical trial in pediatric medulloblastoma vaccines, first vaccines ever used for that.
Wow.
We're now working, and I think you'll be pleased with this, on trying to take that vaccine approach now into DIPG. And There are 2 foundations that we know that are very focused and interested in DIPG, but that also trust that we've looked at the esoteric scientific background of this and put some of our own money in. You know, we've got skin in the game, not just trying to get their money. And so what we're looking at doing is putting together a collaboration among funders to drive this new DIPG vaccine forward. And I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's going to be a wonderful project.
And let's talk about that more when we come back. We're out of time for this portion. This is Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life, and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
And we're back once again with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, brought to you by Jack's Angels Foundation for DIPG Awareness and Research, to be found on the web at jacksangels.org. CCTR5.org. Our focus today is brain tumors, the leading cause of death in children diagnosed with cancer. And today we've been visiting with Max Wallace, CEO of ABC Squared, Accelerate Brain Cancer Cure, a venture philanthropic company supporting brain cancer research. ABC Squared has awarded more than 100 grants, totaling over $20 million to world-renowned researchers and physician scientists from 54 institutions. We will return to our conversation after this brief bit of show information and advocacy news. As I said before, it's Brain Tumor Awareness Month, and I repeat statistics about childhood cancer and the most deadly brain tumors because, for example, many still don't know that cancer is the leading cause of death in children in the U.S. after accidents and injuries, and that only 4% of our tax dollars allotted for cancer research with the National Cancer Institute, and we thank God for them too because it's where some of the only research for certain diseases comes from, but only 4% targets pediatric cancer as a whole. For change in prognosis or treatment of I've lost my place. For the leading cause of cancer-related death in children, brainstem glioma, there has literally been no change in prognosis or treatment protocol for decades, and the families have been expected to accept that there are no solutions because their lives are basically insignificant to research investors. With unfortunate regularity, parents are told that nothing can be done for DIPG, the deadliest brain tumor, and that the median survival time is just 9 months. So briefly, all the childhood cancer awareness bills in Congress, really for the last 8 to 10 years, containing provisions for the analysis of money flow at NCI have disappeared. But what has been pieced together from the wreckage is a comprehensive bill called the STAR Act, the Childhood Cancer Survivorship, Treatment, Access, and Research Act, would expand opportunities for childhood cancer research, improve efforts to identify and track childhood cancer incidents, enhance the quality of life for childhood cancer survivors, and ensure publicly accessible expanded access policies that provide hope for patients who have run out of options. This bill is doing very well in the House and Senate, but it needs more support. So if you haven't called your representative in Washington to support the bill, please do. It's a small gesture. It can go so far. And the DIPG Awareness Resolution, HRES 586, thanks to Congressman Steve Knight of California, does what all the other hard law bills don't do directly. It asks for greater consideration for low survival rate cancers, or urgency, and years of life lost, meaning children, with the NCI research grant process. Using diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma as an example, in HRES 586, we learn how the second most common pediatric brain tumor is responsible for the majority of brain tumor deaths in children each year, yet there has been no progress in its terminal prognosis in over 40 years, with an average of 20,000 years of life lost each year. Please visit HRES586.com for simple, easy-to-follow instructions to ask your congressional representatives to sign the bill. It only requires the support of the House to pass, and time is something these children do not have. DIPG is literally death row for kids. So thank you for please taking prompt action. A small action, again, for you and me, leverages the power of awareness for the entire country. So for more information about each of these, please visit the Children's Cause Cancer Advocacy at childrenscause.org or visit jacksangels.org advocacy page. The Alliance for Childhood Cancer will host this year's Childhood Cancer Action Days in Washington on May 16th and 17th. Oh my gosh, that's next week. So please visit the Alliance on Facebook or on the web at www.allianceforchildhoodcancer.org. CureFest 2016, a national movement, begins with the first steps, is September 17th and 18th of this year. Don't miss this event in Washington if helping kids with cancer is important to you. CureFest provides a supportive environment where people from all walks of life join together with a common purpose. You are not alone. CureFest is a great way to meet others who walk this path, network, and learn more about the possibilities for your role in the movement. Newsflash, April 20th to 24th, the historic 200-mile activist run for HRES 586 from Bakersfield, California, and 88 Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation through Santa Clarita, home of Jack's Angels, and down to McKenna Clare in Huntington Beach was a success. Our show featured on April 21st current activist runners for childhood cancer and a visit from Congressman Steve Knight of California's 25th District. And there are rumors that there is another run in the works. We will have more for you later about that. And there are a few DIPG organizations having their big events during DIPG Awareness Week, which is slated to be May 22nd through 29th. Out here in California is the first ever Relay for Jack, benefiting pediatric brain tumor research at CCTR5, the Children's Cancer Therapy Development Institute, May 28th, 2016, in honor of the first National DIPG Awareness Week. Relay for Jack is an ultra-distance 8-hour relay for serious runners, advocates, and families alike wanting to raise funds for an innovative new research project for DIPG, the deadliest pediatric brain tumor. For more information, visit relayforjack.org. And just to tell you very briefly, we're blessed to have the founders of CCTDI. They returned to our show last week, and it's this project called Jack's 12 Pebbles, which involves a small chip that we'll talk about, hopefully talk about some of this a little bit more in the show, but it's a little chip that tests, because time isn't something these kids have, the most promising chemotherapies for DIPG, really in the course of a weekend, determining the best possible combination for that child. So anyway, interesting stuff. The next event, Michael Mosier Defeat DIPG Foundation, is hosting its first superhero sprint and 6K on Sunday, May 29th. And this is in Bethesda, Maryland, at the Westfield Montgomery Mall. And Michael Mosier Foundation has been a big supporter of HRES 586 and one of the main contributors to the DIPG Collaborative. And you can learn more about their everything that they do and this event at defeatdipg.org. Then we have the Jeffrey Thomas Hayden Foundation with their event on May 27th, jthf.org. That's in Liberty Township, Ohio. We have Aiden's Avengers with their event May 27th at aidensavengers.com, and Aiden is spelled A-I-D-A-N. That's aidensavengers.com in Douglasville, PA. And Ryan's Hope Foundation. Their event is on May 27th in New York, Pennsylvania, ryансhope.org. And that's enough out of me and the news and events. I really want to get back to our conversation now with Max Wallace, CEO of ABC Squared, Accelerate Brain Cancer Cure. And we were talking about, before the break. Max, are you there? I just want to make sure first of all.
I'm here.
I'm doing it to you. Okay, great. Thank you. You were talking about getting people together to consider this treatment for, was it medulloblastoma?
Yes, well, actually, DIPG now. We did assemble a group for medulloblastoma, but we're now working on doing the same type of thing to extend that vaccine into DIPG.
So how would the vaccine work? How would that be done?
You're over my head.
Oh, sorry.
Technologically. But the idea is that we need to take advantage of the skills that Mother Nature brings to bear. That especially in a disease like DIPG, where the tumor is interwoven into the brainstem, surgery is not really an option. You can't go into such a sensitive area and remove enough of the tumor to really make a positive impact. And while it's possible to use drugs to do some of this, we're not really great at developing sensitive, thoughtful, non-side effect drugs. We tend to hit things with sledgehammers, and that's a very difficult place to be swinging sledgehammers. To our point of view, the real way to tackle this, going forward long into the future, is to harness the power of the body's own immune system. Mother Nature is very good at this. Tumors hide from the immune system. We don't always know how to rev the immune system up to do this, but the vaccine project we're looking at for this funding is really designed to allow the body's own systems to find its way to all those tumor cells woven into the brainstem and eliminate them through classic immune function. So we're excited in a lot of ways about a variety of different immune therapies, but this is one of the leading edge versions.
Well, that's brilliant, and I thank you for your explanation because, I don't know about you, but I think vaccine, and I see a syringe and a needle, and so.
Well, and we think about vaccine like I'm old enough to have gotten the polio vaccine in the 50s. And what it was designed to do was put a little bit of that polio substance into your body and let your body then produce all these defenses that would keep you from getting real polio down the road. So it was preventive. It's like the flu vaccine now. We're talking about a different kind of vaccine, a therapeutic vaccine that you put something in that causes the immune system to recognize the tumor and go attack it. We probably have tumor cells in our body every day, all different types of tumors, and our immune system wipes them out, sweeps them away. And when these tumors take hold in a case like DIPG, basically the system missed. And we're trying to work on ways to get the system to shine its light on those tumor cells, wipe them out, and sweep them away. And that's the idea.
It's fantastic. And it brings a lot of hope to a lot of people. And I'm looking here, you have a number of pediatric projects that you're looking at. I'm looking at, is that the one, is the Immunosignature project with UCSD, is that what you're referring to, or is that a different one?
No, that's a different one.
Tell me about that one. I was interested in
I heard you talking about races. And we, as you know, from having come to the Race for Hope, we do an 11,000-person run walk on Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C., and it's wonderful. But races are hard, and we started doing these fun events called Over the Edge, where we rappel off the top of the highest building we could find, as do the patients and parents, and they raise money to support their rappelling efforts. And we did this now for 3 years in San Diego, rappelling off the Manchester Grand Hyatt, and raised the last time over $200,000 that we promised to deploy into San Diego-based brain tumor research. It's such a good research area. And so what we wound up doing is recognizing that part of the challenge is recognizing the tumor, but also judging whether drugs or therapies are working against it. Is it recurring? And there is a system that we have found that we're very interested in that uses microchips. And you put 20 or 25,000 dots on this microchip.
And I'm sorry to stop you right there, but we're just about to go to break. Please hold that thought. Please hold that thought and tell us about it when we come back. This is Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media-driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Girassi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward, with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
thank you so much for staying with us. We're still at Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com, and I'm having a great conversation today with Max Wallace, CEO of ABC Squared, Accelerate Brain Cancer Cure. It takes like a venture capitalist approach to funding research. It's amazingly creative company and an amazing team. Putting something together for all the right reasons. And right before the break, we were discussing some really cool pediatric research projects that they were involved with. And he was describing, this one is at UCSD, and it's an immunosignature project. And I think I interrupted you, Max, when you were trying to describe this
Well,
trip.
I get excited and just keep talking. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's good. It's great. So please.
So in this, we found a technology developed at Arizona State University by a brilliant guy named Stephen Johnston. And Stephen works in a place called the Biodesign Institute, a creativity furnace for cool bio-invention. And his idea is you take this chip and dot it with things that react to the proteins in a patient's blood. And you don't even have to know what's reacting. You just have to put the same dot in the same place on every chip, and then you put a bit of blood on it, and you look to see which of these dots react and light up. It's like a jumbotron scoreboard, in essence. And the idea, if he's right, is that all glioblastomas, for example, would have basically the same pattern, the same histogram. All DIPGs would have the same histogram for their unique tumor type. And what our hope is not only will we be able to diagnose quickly and non-invasively, but we can also then track how the tumors are reacting to medication and treatment. Does the histogram go up and down? If you think you've done a good job of treating the tumor and you're in that terribly difficult position where you're waiting to see if it recurs, this would be an early indicator of recurrence, much earlier than an MRI, for example. So we see lots of uses for this. And we brought together Arizona State University. We then brought in UCSD with its surgical capability and researchers at Sanford Burnham Institute in San Diego, Sanford Burnham Priebus now. And the goal was to create a scientific team, and then we used our over-the-edge repelling money plus money from other foundations and funded this project. So, I think it's the ultimate example of a team sport.
I love the over-the-edge thing. I think that's fantastic.
I was the first to go over, and believe me, it was scary as could be. But it's the illusion of danger, and it's fun. The chair of neurosurgery at UCSD goes over each year because he said it's important for him to understand risk, and it's nowhere near the risk that his patients are taking. And he finds it kind of humbling to make that recognition. So he does it to just have an experience that reminds him of how hard this is for patients and families. And we get a lot of patients and families to go over.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, that's fantastic. Wow.
You need to come down and do it.
I do. It's not that far. It's like a 3-hour drive. When is it?
It is early in November. We have a link on our website. We are also going to do one in Washington, D.C. this year. There's a company that does the prep work for you, and they give out a limited number of licenses so you don't have 50 crazy repelling events in one local area. And it makes it very safe. It's the illusion of danger. But believe me, when you're climbing over a railing 36 stories up, it feels like more than an illusion of danger.
Oh, I'll be crying.
I was, but it's okay.
But it's okay. Oh, yeah. That's great. I love it. So, gosh. Tell us a little bit. There are some kind of pervasive themes that seem to go through your work. You name them on the website as metrics. Could you tell us a little bit about them and how they work together, and it helps choose projects also?
I think it's important that we have metrics when we fund. Did we do our job? Did we hit our mark? Recognizing that at these far edge of the risk curve type of projects, we might not always succeed. But the real key is, did we attempt to make a real impact? is that impact going to happen? If this works, will it change something for the better for somebody? We recognize that sometimes it won't work, but you ought to be shooting for impact. Secondly, just because of the nature of our organization, our second metric is leadership. We don't want to do Me Too projects. We aren't very good followers. One of the other analogies we use is kind of a Lewis and Clark analogy. You know, our job is to go out in the woods, climb the weirdest mountains, hack trails, and send back maps for other people to follow. So leadership is a very important thing, that we should go where people haven't gone before. And so impact, leadership, and then the third is leverage. I mean, we're a small organization. We're 6 people. We just can't raise that amount of money, and we don't want to become a fundraising organization where we put 40 FTEs in a development office just to churn money. Let's raise the money we need to make an impact. So impact, leadership, and leverage. When I worked in venture-funded biotech, kind of the joking term was OPM. You always wanted to use other people's money because you'd never have enough money of your own. And in essence, this is kind of a calm, gentle, positive way of OPM. We find other people who have similar visions who will join with us, and we'll go out into the wilderness together. And so my perfect project will have a great chance at impact, will be way out in front of everybody else, taking perhaps demented risk, and that we'll have other people coming along with us and leveraging our results. So those are our metrics.
It's amazing. Could you tell me a little bit about this? I have in my examples of your coolest projects. One that captured my attention was the Israeli split immunity. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Although I'll probably get thrown in jail after talking about it. We were contacted by a researcher that we think very highly of, and because of this venture model, that happens a lot. You know, our network works, and people bring us things to look at. And there's an idea that in the brain, you don't have a very effective immune system, not nearly as strong as in the rest of the body. And that's one of the reasons you rarely see a metastasis from the brain to the rest of the body. You do see circulating brain tumor cells in the blood, but they don't seem to create new tumors. And the thinking was that's because the bulk of the body has a much more robust immune system than the brain, that the brain lives in this brain tumors live in this privileged environment. So what if we could provoke the whole body's immune system by doing something, and here it's taking a piece of the brain tumor from the patient and implanting it in the patient's chest and forcing the body to react to a live tumor being put in their chest. And that would rev up the immune system and the immune system in the brain and see if we couldn't provoke an unnaturally large immune reaction in the brain that would control the brain tumor, kill the little satellite tumor, but provoke the brain center immune system to wipe out the entire tumor. And as we looked, the place that was willing to do this was a university in Israel. That this went all the way up to the cabinet level to get approval, and we funded a clinical trial on what we call split immunity in Israel to pioneer this approach. That would have been a very difficult thing to get through our regulatory and legal system.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And so, are any of the results public, or are they
Trials
still
underway
at the early
now.
phase?
They were going to take 3 patients, look at what happened, and then look at doing a larger trial. And we're not looking at being the people that drive the larger trial. We wanted to generate the data that could interest other funders into coming on board if this worked, and we're waiting anxiously to find out.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe we'll just have to have a stay tuned and have you back to tell us about it. Or maybe we'll hear it on the news. But definitely.
You know, that's what happened with polio. I mean, we put money early on into the work being done at Duke using polio virus to provoke the immune system. It had unique homing properties, had unique immune therapy properties. Well, maybe a year ago, there was a big edition of 60 Minutes that talked about that polio work. And now it's moving into bigger and bigger clinical trials. But I think back to when that first decision was made, and people probably reacted the same way to that they would react to the Split Immunity Project.
Right. Of course. Of course. You're talking about putting a potentially dangerous organism into someone's body. I mean, all these things, we're not doing these things because, let's just see what happens. It's because of the urgency of need.
There's a rationale. Yeah. And it's hard to tell a brain tumor patient that they can't absorb that experimental risk when they're dealing with a brain tumor. Absolutely. So it's finding a balance.
Definitely. So what do you see for the future right now with ABC Squared?
I'm pretty excited. I'm a lifetime boater. I like being out on the ocean. And my favorite time is always about 5 o'clock in the morning. I get up really early on the boat. And it's because it's pitch black, and then you see this little line of light on the horizon, and it's dawn coming. And I think that's kind of where we are scientifically in cancer research in general, but certainly in brain tumor research. And the reason for that is we've made such big investments in the Human Genome Project and the Cancer Genome Atlas and a lot of the basic science work that's now starting to interact. And we're saying, that relates to that. And if we did these things together, these combination drugs, these immune therapies, we could have a real impact on patients. So I'm very excited about where we are. I think it is just the start of really cool stuff. But in addition to that, looking at specific areas, we're very interested. We're funding a lot of work in immune therapies because of the reasons we talked about before. The immune system is pretty magic if we can get it to focus. Right. We're looking at genomics and all the molecular profiling capabilities that will let us make better and better molecules and combinations of molecules and get those to just the right patients. So genomics is a big part of our play. We're doing a lot of biomarker development so that we can say, if we've got these tools, which patients should get which. Because right now we kind of give them to everybody. So those are our three big areas: biomarkers, genomics, and immune therapies.
Well, Max, you've been the light of dawn for us today here on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. I wish I had a couple more minutes and I didn't have to stop you, but thank you, Max. This has been...
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Of course.
We hope you have found inspiration from today's show. For more about Janet Demeter and her mission, visit jacksangels.org. As founder and president, Janet strives to assure that children with cancer and their parents have a voice, raising